Stephen, I'm going to ask you in a second about meeting your wife, because that was quite a big moment in your life. But before we get to that, were there any standout or defining moments in your sort of Navy career in terms of sort of your development spiritually?
Yeah, obviously on board HMS Eagle, because there were people who was interested in spiritual things or spirits. I was obviously aware of things then, so I was quite attuned. But really, a very interesting thing, two things have happened, two really important things. I believe in destiny. I believe that certain things will happen in certain times. I'm not saying our life is planned completely, because sometimes if you're driving a car, you may go on a motorway or go on a side road. You know, it depends up to you, because we have freedom of our own will. But a couple of things happen. One happened early. We used to have an aircraft on board the ships in those days called a Gannet. It's a propellered aircraft. It's got two sets of propellers, one at the front, one behind it. One goes one way, one goes the other way. It's called contra-rotating. And when you go in to put what we call the chocks against the wheels so they don't roll about, there would be two chocks. At that age I was only 16 and a half. And I was on the starboard, that's the right hand side. And this Gannet had come in up the front, she landed on, she went up and taxied up the front, and of course the signal is to put the chocks in. And I went under the starboard wing, and right underneath this wing, bear in mind, right in front of me is these propellers still going. And right underneath, they're the fuel tank. I put the chocks in, and for some reason either the fuel tank split or it released fuel, and I was absolutely covered in fuel. And fuel does go through your clothing, even though it's relatively windproof, it goes straight through. And in that moment it starts to burn your skin. And of course I couldn't see, so I rushed out. Now, anybody who's worked with their aircraft know that you come in at what we call 10 to 2. You don't run any other way, because one, it's dangerous. And if you've got a propeller in front of you, you most certainly don't run in front of it, because they tended to lift people up and that should be chopped to pieces. And I panicked as a young boy. I panicked and ran forward. And it was almost as if there was a great hand that pushed me. And rather than me carry on forward, this great energy pushed me, and I came rolling out the side, covered in fuel, couldn't see, spitting, because obviously I'd swallowed some of the damn stuff as well, and there I was. And it didn't dawn on to me until perhaps a few hours later. And if it hadn't been, I believe, for the hand of either those in the spirit world or the divine presence, I would not be here today. A singular thing happened, and a lot of people don't realise this, that the spirit world often talk through your mind. As they talk through your mind, sometimes we don't listen, sometimes we don't take notice. But one thing had happened. I had to come up from Plymouth to Nottingham to meet my wife, just got married, and I had a choice of going by car or by train. Now, it doesn't seem much now, all these years later, but on the Sunday night, I had to go and catch a 20 to 7 at night train. Or I could get a train at 10:30, which is not a lot, but it would take me to Birmingham, and I'd be picked up by a chap, a friend of mine in the Navy. And he brought me up, and all on the Sunday I kept hearing this voice: go back by train, go back by train, all through the morning, go back by train, go back by train. And I had to phone him no later than 3 o'clock, and I phoned him up, and I picked up the phone, phoned him, and he answered the phone, and I was at my mother-in-law's, and that's where we stayed. I said, I'm going back on train. Now, it doesn't seem much to many people, but when you just got recently married, but a few hours, it makes a weekend, and of course you want to be together. Went back, went on the train, no problem, went onto the flight deck in the morning, and all the crew were stand to attention, and I was a leading hand in front of all the men and the officers. And one of the petty officers said, God, did you see that accident? What accident? I said, no, it was a car accident. It was really bad. I just saw the end of it. And the story of it was that this gentleman had got a Mini, and I would be in the passenger seat. And unfortunately, he had an accident going down the road somewhere in Somerset. And the whole of the near side of the car was completely took out. He lost his left eye and was also injured, never to return back to the Royal Navy. I've never seen him since. But if I hadn't listened to that voice in my head to tell me to get the train, then I would not be here today.
Mm. Tell me about leaving the Royal Navy then.
Well, it's all obviously I got married. I got married in 1968, and some of it real, well, mainly all of it real, I suppose, was the fact that my father had passed in 1971. In actual fact, it's 40 years on this Saturday that he's been passed. And my father passed on the Friday, but on the Thursday night, the Provost Marshal had been in touch with the local police, and I'd been on a week's holiday, leave we would call it, and to tell me that I'd got to get back to the camp. So I phoned up the officer, which I had to phone back immediately, was given an advanced leave. So even though they said to me my next of kin was my wife, not my father, even though my father was in the United Kingdom and I could get up to see him, I had serious problems. And when I came back, I thought, that's it, I've had enough. And I decided that I didn't want it much longer. I did 10 years, and 10 years is long enough, I suppose. But that's how I came out of the Navy, because of that situation. And I really wanted to do other things in life anyway.
Tell me about Steve Tomlinson.
Well, it's an interesting thing that my wife would have, in 1975 our eldest son was born, and in 1978 my youngest son, now got a grandson, granddaughter to come very, very shortly. And we didn't realise this, but my auntie, we call her Rowie, her name was Vera Rowena, and she was fantastic. She was like a mother, she was a lovely, lovely person. And she kept saying, oh, I had a shop, I was in retail. And she kept saying to us, oh, I went to a medium. Well, she went on, and one night I said to her, well, we ought to go. She said, well, phone him up. I said, no, you phone him, Rowie. So she phoned him and arranged to have a meeting. And we went to see this man, Steve Tomlinson, me, the wife, and Auntie Rowie. Now, this taught me something quite interesting. My wife went in first, not realising, I didn't realise that she got post-traumatic stress, whatever they call it. No, it's not post-traumatic, is it?
Baby blues.
Baby blues, whatever it was. She got baby blues, and anyway, not being a woman, I want to know that one. But she definitely, I didn't realise it. So she went in and he gave her some information. I went in, well, I must be the greatest person in the world to have a private reading because I don't stop talking. I'd find somebody this is somebody who knew, that was just strange. Because it was a medium, not a psychic, there is a difference. One's better than the other, but there's a difference. I felt that he could read all through me, all the good things and bad things I'd done in life. It didn't bother me at all. That is not, you can't do that, it's not possible. But what it did, it was something very, very special. My aunt went in, so when we came out, we went to a local public house, which is called the Pheasant. Sat down there, well, what do you think? So first of all, my wife said, well, he was a really nice man. He said, he told me about my dad. What did he tell you about your dad? So he gave us some information. Information we had to clarify. There was only one person, an uncle. He actually wasn't an uncle really, but everybody called him uncle. I now know his son. And they were childhood friends. And they grew up really, really close friends. I had to go and ask him. His name was Cyril. We saw Cyril some time later and said, Cyril, what's this about Fred? Now, this is my father-in-law. He'd never speak about the Navy. My dad talk about it all the time. And what had happened, the day before the ship HMS Hood sailed, he was taken off the ship. Now, he'd had post-traumatic stress because all of his friends who he joined up with, no different to me when I went on board Her Majesty's ship Eagle. All his friends went to sea, and over 1,800 men were sadly to lose their physical lives in the Denmark Straits in an engagement with the Bismarck.